Hello there. It's Most Things Kenobi. This is the podcast you're looking for.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Most Things Kenobi, a podcast about Obi-Wan Kenobi and all things Star Wars. I'm your host, Lauren.
And I'm your host, Leanne.
And this week, we're talking about something a little different. I'm actually so excited.
A little different, a lot different. It will depend.
Yeah. We are talking about AUs. And for those of you who don't know, it means alternate universe, or sometimes they're also referred to as headcanons. And it's basically when a fan of something creates their own storyline or a side tangent for a storyline that kind of is still under the umbrella of the fandom. So Star Wars there's a ton for Star Wars. Everybody who watches Star Wars has their own ideas, pretty much.
Yeah, and sometimes they're giant stories. Sometimes they're just simple ideas. And we polled a bunch of people on our social media and got some ideas, and that's what we're talking about. We're also going to talk about our own headcanon / AU things.
Well, some people love like a modern AU where it's set in current times, like on planet Earth for Star Wars.
Right.
Or like Obi-Wan's a professor or something like that. You know?
A baker? I still think he should be a baker.
That's adorable. One time I read a fic a long time ago that was set in Chicago, like in the 1920s, and Obi-Wan was some like counselor to a woman who was involved with the mafia or something.
Have mercy.
Right? It was crazy, but it was pretty good.
I love that.
So let me start by asking, do you generally enjoy AUs or do you prefer like canon compliant stories usually?
I like canon compliant. Yeah.
I do too.
AUs make me a little uncomfortable, and not in like a weird way, just in I like them for what I like the characters and the planets and the storyline because I like the characters, the planets, and the storyline, right? It is fun to think about it in a different way, but I don't like to live in that world.
I'm the same. I'm exactly the same.
Yeah.
Because the reason I love the characters are for how they are. Mm-hmm. So when you change it too much, then they're not the character anymore. So
now, we have had episodes here, namely why Rey should have been a Kenobi. I guess that's not canon compliant. It could be considered a headcanon, an extra large headcanon.
But it almost canon compliant, but
almost.
Then apparently the powers that be changed their mind.
Yes, well that's going to be one of my AUs, kind of. I'll talk about it, but that one, like, if it makes sense in a storyline, like in a canon storyline, I'm for it. Mm-hmm. You know, but if we're taking all of the characters, we'll say, of the prequel trilogy and putting them in a Viking atmosphere, it's a little strange.
Exactly. To me, when you're doing that, you might as well just write your own Viking story.
Which is cool. I mean, it's fun to think about them in different roles that are kind of like the roles they have, but in a different era.
Yeah.
Kind of, but
it's true. Like, I'm not like opposed to AUs or anything like that. And sometimes I do go in search for that when I'm in a mood for it, but I'm generally not in the mood for that. But every now and then you find a good one that's just really super fun.
Yeah. These are fun.
Yeah.
There's some really good ones on this list.
Oh my gosh, so many good ones. And I thank everyone for participating. We had quite a lot of people respond to the Instagram poll that I did. But let's start with ours. What is one of your personal AUs or headcanons that you kind of always hold on to?
I have always held on to the fact that Luke Skywalker is Rey's actual dad.
Same.
I mean, even though we did an episode that she's a Kenobi, I still think within the canon world, it would have made more sense. Pick whatever female you want. Everyone knows I'm not a Mara Jade fan, but even though there was a glimmer of hope that Mara Jade was like now canon and not just part of Legends, I was for it because it would have added depth. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of headcanons about Rey and the sequel trilogy people. Mostly because I want to rewrite a lot of them. But my biggest thing was, if anyone out there has ever seen Colin Trevorrow's concept art for what the Duel of the Fates was the name of in the sequel, instead of Rise of Skywalker, I believe, where Rey has the double-ended blue lightsaber. Like, it was,
Oh my God.
you know, like the first time
Yep.
we see it since Maul or Bastila, right? I guess if you want to go into the old times, it would have been so great. And she's dressed in all black like Luke, and it was a little bit darker. There was a lightsaber guillotine involved in his art. It's just so much darker. There's talk of Mortis. You know, that's my AU. Just where the sequels are a totally different. I hate
Where
that.
they just don't exist.
But like, I can look at one picture of Rey and formulate a whole new story based on one picture from Colin's concept art.
Yeah. That kind of stuff is so great. Concept art and fan art are huge sources of inspiration, I think. I'm a very visual person, even though I write. I cannot do art, but when I see something visual like that, it can be very stimulating to my brain. So I love that kind of stuff so much.
I mean,
my God.
There's that picture we were just talking about of Rey with like a metal leg.
Oh, yeah.
And I wrote a completely different character based on that picture. Even though it was of Rey, I wrote like a different character altogether that's involved with Obi-Wan. So it's like, I can see a piece of art and start a headcanon instantly. But another headcanon I have of mine, like I don't know about AU. It's not an alternate universe, but it kind of is. Anakin had way more sex before Padme.
Oh, interesting. Honestly, that
Is that wrong?
Make a lot more sense.
I've always kind of was like, you know, I bet a lot of his problems would not be solved just because he got laid a lot more. I'm saying, like, he's out on missions. I don't even have to say he got laid. Let me rephrase it. He had interactions with other women outside of Padme that were flirtatious, romantic. He experimented like any young soul would.
Yeah.
You know,
teenage
growing up.
boy.
Yeah. And I mean, he's going to rebel anyway. So he's doing this shit underneath like Obi-Wan's nose. I think on a few missions, he would have had a drink with a girl. Why not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mirage Centel is just one example, but it's so many people said this when we did our Kadavo arc and talked about that in particular.
Yeah.
This is like, where did that Anakin come from?
Exactly.
Because when you see him in Attack of the Clones, he's a moron.
He's a bumbling fool. He's got to learn his savviness from somewhere. And he did not learn it from Padme.
No. Mm-mm.
So
he was almost too nervous to be
exactly
suave.
Yeah.
You know, so it would have to be around other people that he didn't feel so nervous or intimidated by, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay, my last one. And you're going to love this because you already know about it. There is a multi-layer, multi-tiered a spa on Hoth.
Yes!
Where the undercurrent of the galaxy go to let it loose. And each room in the spa is a different theme that conjures up different sins.
This is one of my favorite fics you ever wrote.
I know. Lauren loves this. And I'm holding on to the fact that I love Hoth so much is because I believe that there's an actual oasis there in the form of a spa with thousands of rooms where you can go and do whatever you want, and you don't have to abide by a Jedi code. You don't have to abide by a bounty hunter code. You don't have to abide by any code. The Sith can come and believe in peace if they want to. You know what I'm saying? It's a do whatever you want spa on Hoth. That's my headcanon.
Vegas, but on Hoth. What happens on Hoth stays on Hoth.
You got it. So those are like my top ones. Little ridiculous.
Oh my God, I like that. No, I love that one. That has been one of my favorites of all time.
Listen.
Obi-Wan needs a vacation, and that is the kind of vacation he needs.
He needs to go somewhere where it is permissible to do and be whatever you want, so he doesn't have to feel like he can just shed the cloak of the code for like a weekend. Yeah. He can invite Satine or any woman, any man if he wants. Anything goes on Hoth. So
whatever he wants. Yeah.
That's it.
I like it. Oh my God.
What about you?
I like you. I really struggle to have like any AUs because I like the canon stuff. I think where my AUs come in is where I feel really unsatisfied or like I don't know.
Yeah,
so
it's different. It's just a little too different sometimes.
Yeah, and like one of the ones that I like is really different and would never make sense. I love the idea of Sith Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah, of course, yes. Yes, a lot of people like that. I don't. I like the art of it.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of it because it makes me uncomfortable.
It's sad. Like, it's really, yes. And so the reason I wrote my fan fiction, part 3 coming soon, if I'll finally wrap it up because holy shit, it's been years. Mm-hmm. The reason I wanted that is because he never cracks. And we see Anakin crack. We see Ahsoka crack on Mortis. Like, Mortis was the only place we could have really gotten a little dark Obi-Wan and had it not be real.
Can I tell you a meme I just saw?
Please.
The meme was, Anakin didn't just fall to the dark side once. This mother went twice. And they showed Mortis. And I was like, no, he sucks so bad. He fell twice. He's the only Jedi in history that fell twice. Oh,
He even knew, like, they gave him the knowledge and he still did it again.
Okay, anyway. But yeah, if there was ever a time that Obi-Wan was going to do it, that was our moment. That was it.
Yes. Well, and I really thought that the lawless, actually, there is that moment in, if you listen to stories of the Clone Wars, it's like short stories about the Clone Wars. There's one that is Obi-Wan's perspective from the lawless. And I highly recommend listening to it because James Arnold Taylor reads it.
Nice.
And there is a moment where inside his mind, he thinks about killing Maul and then killing everyone and just losing it. And then at the last second, he won't because it's not what Satine would have wanted.
Oh, well, I could totally see this.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been, he chose to fall to the dark side. It would have been he was pushed so far that he cracked. And once you crack a little, you can keep cracking, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what my fic was about. And that's fun to explore, although I think it is completely unrealistic for the character. So for a person who doesn't like AUs that are non-canon compliant,
well,
I'm guilty of writing one. So.
I mean, they're in the list of our social media listeners and responders. There are a few that I subscribe to.
Yeah.
And I'll mention it as we go through.
Yeah.
For someone who doesn't like AUs, there's a few AUs I really like.
Well, and another one that I really, my heart wants, in my opinion, Rogue One is perfect as it is.
Yes.
Jyn and Cassian's relationship is perfect, exactly how it is. Do I have a guilty pleasure side? Yeah, I wish they had lived and survived, and I do really think they would have been sexy together, but...
Very.
I would, like, part of why I have trouble writing for them in particular is because it's perfect the way it is. It doesn't need me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. I get that totally.
Yeah. So I would love that. And I had the idea that a totally different, like a total AU would be the Rogue One characters, but set during World War II, like the underground, the rebellion in France or like Northern Europe. That could be cool.
That would be
but
cool.
Again, just write your own story.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean,
to do that.
a lot of these stories are written because out of necessity, because we want this to be the truth.
Right.
For instance, I wrote the Luke story where he meets a completely original character who becomes Rey's mother, and
Yeah.
it's because that's what I actually wanted,
Right.
So
I have the same. I have a story I wrote for myself that will never see the light of day, but it's Obi-Wan in the desert meets a force-sensitive woman. And that's Rey's... How does this work? They have a child who's like marries Luke or has a relationship with Luke, and that is how they end up with Rey.
woof, that
So
would
it's
be a
like
lot of power.
So she's half Kenobi, half Skywalker. Like that's how I
She's
like.
Ahsoka.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Obi-Wan and Anakin's like granddaughter / baby sister / daughter / adopted kid sister. There's so many. She is half Skywalker and half Kenobi. Literally.
So that's our stuff, but
Yeah, we've got quite a list.
we do.
So we're going to try and zip through these. We'll see where we end up.
I don't know if you noticed that. I noticed that a lot of these are happier versions. It's like people really want.
I know.
They want the happy ending because we rarely get it.
I know it. I know. Well, that's why they're fake.
Exactly.
Say it with us, everybody. Star Wars is pain.
Yeah, God, I get that as a tattoo.
Right?
So one of our dear friends, Leah, she has a great one. It's Vader raising Luke and Leia.
Yeah. That would be insane.
Can you imagine?
Leia would go dark almost immediately. There's no holding her back.
God. Yeah, and like, does that mean raised on like a Star Destroyer, or does Vader go to Tatooine?
Oh
Hardly.
no, does that mean Tarkin's involved?
Oh God, what happens to Bale then? Well, I guess, okay, so Leah said that this is a story she came up with back in the day, like when original trilogy was all we had. So there wasn't Bail Organa, there wasn't, all the stuff we got for prequels.
Gotcha.
She was interested in this idea from a long time ago. So I think that's awesome. That's how I came up with my Luke story too, was before any of this extended universe existed. So
yeah, it's definitely an interesting concept, because would he rule with an iron fist, or would it spark the love for Padme and their children like Luke did in him in the original trilogy?
That's a really good question.
Good question. Regardless, Leia is turning.
When she said too, this was before they even knew Padme. Like,
that's true.
The twins' parents, they only had one. Like, nobody knew.
That's right.
The name of their. She said that there might have been reference to it somewhere that her name was Rebecca. I want to say, because that was like a popular name at the time, but maybe that was just the name she came up with. I don't know. I could be wrong, but
what? I mean, no offense to the Rebeccas out there. Hey, Rebecca. But like, I don't see how Rebecca and Padme are even close.
Well, I know there's
that goes with
crazy
world building.
Well, George Lucas has these weird names, and then all of a sudden there's Luke and Ben.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Evan Peel. Evan. Evan, Steve, George, Luke, Ben.
Bill. Bill Skywalker here. I'm a tax attorney ready to help with all your needs.
Okay, so
do you want to read the next one?
Biddy Pins wrote in and said, this is a good one. Chips removed before Order 66 out of all of the clones. Thus, Palpatine is defeated. Fives lives. Clones are free. Another happy ending that we'll never get. But
yeah,
interesting to think about. Had someone found it and they did like a mass like deregulation of the chip, or had them all surgically removed or something.
It could have changed the whole trajectory of the galaxy.
Could you imagine that moment where everybody Palpatine thinks he has him, and then they all turn on him.
Oh my god.
And all of their guns are pointed right at him at the same time. Oh, yes.
Yes. And they could play with us too. They do the Order 66, and you're not sure if the clones are going to do it or not.
Right, and then Rex is the one.
To the Jedi. Yeah. Oh, poor Rex.
I am no pre-programmed clone. And then he fires first. Oh, so good.
Oh my god. Yes, I love it.
Thank you, Bitty Pins.
Oh, we need the happy endings.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, let's see. Bettina said, Legends stays, and the new Jedi Order is based off Yavin, training, exploring, etc.
Yes, I'm here for this.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I think Filoni is slowly trying to pull Legends into canon, like one piece at a time.
He really is.
Yeah. I agree, though. Legends is so vast, and to just erase it all with the flick of a magic wand, it was
but that magic wand has Disney money, so they can do whatever they want. You know what my headcanon is? You know what my headcanon is? There is no Disney wand. Psych. No, but Legends stays. I do think a lot in Legends could have stayed, would have stayed, and could work. Honestly.
Yeah.
And the new Jedi Order, it makes sense to be off Yavin. You know? I think it would be
does.
great. Or at least have a faction, like a campus. Does that exist? Mm-hmm. Have one off of Yavin?
I know. Yeah, like Luke has his Jedi school, and it doesn't get burned to the ground by his nephew, and...
Man. Well, that leads us to the very next one.
Oh, yeah.
By breath in my blood, Ben doesn't die, and he and they establish a fully balanced force-wielding order, not necessarily Jedi. And I think that's fantastic. Actually, I really, really did not want Ben to die, because Ben was just getting interesting.
Yeah.
Right when he died. So
I know.
I know they're trying to get rid of the Skywalkers and any trace of them, but Ben could have lived on and did just this. Fully balanced force-wielding order. Now, there's been a lot of discourse lately, if you've been on Twitter, about the Grey Jedi. There are waves of things on Twitter that come and go where people are abnormally angry about. Mm-hmm. And the Grey Jedi seems to be like the thing that people are abnormally angry about last week. And so, I don't know, Twitter. But in this life, Ben and Rey would have been the perfect, like, light and dark can exist. And here's why.
Yeah.
They could have taught them all together. And it could have been on Yavin. You know, a blending of AUs, if you will.
Yeah, I think that because Disney was so gung-ho to basically rub out the Skywalker storyline, that it backed them into a corner of what was going to be entertaining. And I know they're trying to bring new viewers in, which to me is insane.
Well, you don't want to isolate the old fans and the original fans, or the fans of the original stuff from the new clan of fans coming in. There has to be a blend. I believe the term is there must be a balance.
Yeah.
In the Force.
Well, and there is this technique of having a universe, right? And it's not, I don't mean just in Star Wars. Like, a great example is Quentin Tarantino, right? All of his stories take place in Quentin Tarantino universe.
Right.
So they're self-referential. When you watch one, it references another one, and then you go and watch that, and you're like, oh, what the that's awesome. It doesn't have to mean anything. It's just really rewarding to the audience. So when you start to remove that out of the stories you're telling, it makes no sense marketing-wise, because it actually isolates people.
Totally.
Instead of making them more likely to pay more money to dive deeper into the fandom that you've created. But what you're doing is making single tracks so that people only want to take one path, not all the paths.
Correct.
So I find it not as wise as it could be. Granted, I'm a huge Star Wars Skywalker fan.
Same.
I think Star Wars is the Skywalkers, but that's just me.
No, it will always be. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Older camp, I guess, a fan, but there wouldn't be any Star Wars without the Skywalker saga, so a little reverence for it would be appreciated from an older fan like myself.
Yes.
Pardon me, I'll get off my soapbox.
Don't! This is your podcast. Sorry. You can stand on any soapbox for as long as you want. I'm on it with you, so don't worry about it.
Oh, man. Okay, Kendall Nelson said, I love happy AUs like if Satine had survived the Lawless.
I mean, yeah. Yep. I mean, what else do you say to that? It's true.
It's true, yeah. It's like...
It would have changed a lot of stuff, or maybe not, I don't know.
It would have changed what's going on in The Mandalorian right now, if that
is true. That is true. Yep.
Although Palpatine wanted her out of the way anyway, so...
Definitely. He probably would have gotten his way one way or another, but maybe not. It's an AU. We can have her live if we want, right?
Yeah, exactly. Happy ending.
Now this one's interesting. KT Unravels says the Empire does not fall, and Luke has to cope with Vader and Sidious. This is interesting because I don't think it's possible for Luke to cope with Vader and Sidious.
Yeah, I would enjoy watching that struggle.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not saying that KT Unravels AU is wrong. I'm saying I can't see a situation where Luke doesn't die in the presence of Sidious. So...
Right, exactly.
If that were to happen...
Yeah.
That would be a struggle. Yes.
Especially because all the dominoes lined up just right for Return of the Jedi, so that when Luke went and saw Sidious and Vader, he knew, which I told you this the other day, I want to do a whole episode about this. He was either gonna save his father or die. He knew that going in. And so if you remove that scenario, it makes it less likely that he's going to actually get through to his father on other occasions. You know how you only have like one window of opportunity for somebody in the right emotional state?
Yes.
And so I think you're right. I think it would be much more likely that Luke would die in that situation. Or be turned, because that's ultimately... Sidious really wanted to replace Anakin with Luke.
Because so sad.
Luke had a body, and Anakin was supposed to be this amazing Sith, and then his body got destroyed, and he got limited by what he could do, whereas Luke was fresh and young, and Sidious could take control of him.
I'm boiling over here. No pun intended. But, like...
Sorry.
It makes me so mad to think that, like, Sidious was just going to throw his lapdog of, like, X amount of years that he brainwashed and used to get into that position just willy-nilly just to replace him with his son. Like, off, Sidious.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't care about anybody.
He doesn't. He really doesn't.
Manipulation.
Hey, look, here's one. This one's for you.
Which one? Oh, the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Bettina, she understands me.
She does.
She says Rogue One survived Scarif and continued all working for the Rebel intelligence. Yes. I'm currently working on a fic about this right now.
Yes, and the artwork for it coming down the pike is fantastic. I saw you teased it. It's so good.
I did.
It's
Amiko
so good.
is such a good artist. Oh my gosh. It's been delightful getting those emails with the art coming in.
Well, hang tight, Bettina. Your story's coming. Via Lauren. Now, this one is really cool. This is an AU I can stand behind and would love to see. Whitney Wiley says, Obi-Wan in a samurai story.
That would be so cool.
Could you see him? I can. I think it would be so cool. They're so disciplined and like calm and precise and collected and in tune with everything. And that fits Obi-Wan to a T. He could be the perfect...
Yeah.
He could do it. You know, you could just be it.
Yeah, well, especially considering how much the Jedi are based on the samurai to begin with.
Does help.
Is like the exact cookie cutter that would fit into that universe just beautifully. I love this idea. I would love to see him in the traditional armor that they wear. And
so good with like really long hair. Like traditional, like the long straight hair. Oh, sorry. make new noises for these things.
You need a cold shower over there?
I do. It just looks so good in my brain.
Oh, man. Very unique, said Obi-Wan leaves the Jedi for Satine, AU. Satine lives, AU. Anakin doesn't turn Sith, AU. So all happy endings.
All of these would have to happen at once.
Yeah, pretty much.
If Obi-Wan leaves for the Jedi for Satine, Satine lives, they live happily ever after, then Anakin's like, this shit. I'm going to go with Padme. He doesn't turn. Everyone lives happily ever after. And Ahsoka is confused.
She just gets to go back and forth between their houses hanging out.
That's it. Yeah. I'm with Obi-Wan this weekend in Satine. And I'll see you Padme and Anakin and everyone and the kids next weekend. And yeah.
Honestly, I do feel like they would have all been better off if they just left the Jedi Order for God's sakes.
Yeah. I love it because it's happy.
Yeah, it's a nice little ray of sunshine to step into, honestly.
It gives the characters the happiness that they deserved and didn't get.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I'm always for. In fact, I'm going to just skip ahead real quick to Snips005, who says, Anakin raises Luke and Leia. That is something I always wanted. There is so much good fan art out there of Anakin, Padme. They're both alive. They're raising their kids. They're happy, stable family unit.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan's like the uncle. Ahsoka's like the aunt.
Yeah.
And everyone's invited over for dinner on Sunday. And
they go to the beach.
That's right. They do go to the beach. There's a lot of art of them playing in the sand, burying Obi-Wan up to his neck. I love it.
Okay, Mia is doodling, said, this is also cut from my cloth. Obi-Wan falls to the dark side, probably after the Lawless, and Anakin has to stop him, AU.
Isn't that literally what you're trying to write?
Yeah, I messaged her and I was like, I have a fic right now if you want to read it.
Yes. It's so good, though. And I love the idea of Anakin being the rescuer instead of Obi-Wan being the one who has to pull Anakin back. Anakin in a power position to pull his best friend out of something is a cool twist.
I think that would be one of the ways to save him from turning.
Exactly, yes.
To make him care more about saving someone else than saving... Like, if Padme was safe and he had the responsibility of saving Obi-Wan from the dark side... Because then he would see, like, that pain of losing someone to the dark side. Yeah, I think that would be the thing that would save him.
Totally. I love this. I love this one. These are all so good. These all have roots in Star Wars where they could blossom into something beautiful. All of these.
Yeah.
That's why this is fun to, like, dip your toe into.
It was actually really heartening to see so many people having such nice, positive... Not that we don't dislike the dark stuff, because you and I both love dark stuff, but it was just like, oh, these are all so nice.
Yeah, yeah. So next week, we will do part 2 of this episode because we have more AUs to discuss from our listeners and viewers. And the greatness continues. There's a lot of fun stuff we haven't talked about yet, and I can't wait to read the rest of them.
Yeah, it's going to be freaking awesome. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Most Things Kenobi podcast. We appreciate every one of our patrons and are grateful for your support. If you'd like to support the podcast and become a patron as well, head over to the Most Things Kenobi Patreon. As always, you can follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast player. If you enjoy our podcast, feel free to rate us on Spotify and Apple. I just read our Apple reviews the other day. You guys are amazing, and you just really touched my heart. Thank you for all of that.
Yes, thank you. You're amazing.
And if you need just one place to find all of these, head over to mostthingskenobi.com.
So until next time, my space twin, may the Force be with you.
Always.